Hi, I am Rachel Schwalk. I'm a senior detection engineer at Red Canary. Today I'm going to be talking about Red Canary's cloud security forecast. We're going to go over 5 considerations for improving your cloud security posture. Alright, so let's dive into what are these 5 considerations for bettering your cloud security. We're going to cover managing identities, avoiding misconfigurations, understanding the cloud threat landscape, knowing the APIs that adversaries abuse, and collecting from the right log sources. So how can you secure your identities to protect your cloud environment? You want to start by applying the least privilege to your IAM roles and users. Not everyone needs administrator access, and that'll help limit the scope of an attack if an identity is compromised. Require MFA whenever possible, so multi-factor authentication. Anywhere you can apply it. Using short-term tokens to authenticate API calls. So like the name suggests, these are temporary credentials, and you don't have to worry about, once they're no longer needed, going to revoke that token. It'll expire, and then once it expires, it can't be reused. Using a secrets manager is another option for securing identities. So instead of hard coding secrets, using a manager for that data will help keep you out of trouble. What are common ways that misconfigurations arise? So disabled logging is a common one, because sometimes they're disabled to reduce the overhead of maintaining logs. However, logging is needed to be able to detect suspicious actions and other potential misconfigurations. So ensure logging is enabled and that those logs are being monitored. Improper public access is another common misconfiguration. So exposing a storage bucket or exposing a network service like SSH publicly without intending to can lead to rapid compromise of the cloud environment. Overly permissive access. This applies to both the host and the user accounts. So legacy protocols exposing sensitive APIs and allowing more permissions than necessary to accounts, roles, and services. It leads to a much larger risk in your environment. Unrestricted outbound port and IP access is another common misconfiguration. So it's so important to identify all the open ports and limit opening only the absolutely necessary ones for the required services. Your cloud instances should also be restricted to certain IP ranges. That way you're not allowing just anybody to try to log into your cloud environment. Ideally, this would be something like your organization's VPN IP range. Let's now dive into what are some prevalent threats that target cloud environments. Some of the most prevalent cloud threats we see are info stealers. And sometimes these actually originate just on your regular end user endpoints. So these threats like Redline, Luma C2, and Vidar Stealer, these will execute on regular Windows endpoints. They'll be looking though for access keys and session tokens, and that can be used to pivot to the cloud environment. There are also cloud-specific stealers out there. Androx Ghost, FBot, and Legion. These are 3 that have been seen in cloud environments. And they'll use stolen information to deliver additional malicious payloads. They use vulnerabilities in stuff like web applications to infect systems, and they will scan for exposed .env files and gather those secrets. These threats are also often used to perform spamming attacks. So Androx Ghost will call the API get send quota, and that will check the email sending limit of the compromised account. The other primary function of these threats are to escalate into the AWS console. And often the next payload to these threats could be a cryptojacking type scenario. So cryptojacking is another prevalent cloud threat. Similar to the threats we talked about, it's often the result of web application vulnerabilities and user compromise or misconfigurations. What are the APIs that adversaries are abusing in cloud intrusions? First thing you might see is create user. So an adversary will want to have persistent access into that cloud environment. They'll just make their own user oftentimes. But they also might want to escalate privileges. So they may attach a user policy such as administrator access policy, and that would allow them admin access. They could also use create access key, which enables creating an access key ID and secrets access key for another user. Or create login profile is another one that would permit creating or updating a login profile, including setting passwords for an AWS console login. That will lead to direct privilege escalation. And we have also got reconnaissance commands. So get caller identity is the who am I of the cloud environment. And then we have list secrets is another common one that will be abused. And that will list the secrets stored by the secrets manager in the AWS account. Now, where can you collect telemetry to gain better cloud visibility? Let's talk about our log source options. So in AWS, you have CloudTrail, and that will have details on actions taken by a user, a role, or an AWS service. And GuardDuty is an add-on for threat detection. Azure. So Azure activity and resource logs, and that can be sent to log analytics for correlation and consolidation, and you can set up alert logic there. GCP, you've got the cloud audit log, and then you've also got an add-on for event threat detection service. Thank you. Those are our 5 key considerations, and I'll leave you off with some QR codes to help improve your cloud security today.